All right, y'all, the jingle is there, so that means we have returned. That is right. We are back. JB Wins Dogon SS once again for another edition of Conscious Approach on YouTube. Major shouts out to everybody who's been tuning in with us, subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button, leaving those comments, letting us know what you think about the commentary and any of our pieces of content. We certainly appreciate it. A couple of house cleaning materials to get out of the way as always. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. We understand that by making the effort to click on the subscribe button, it indicates that you receive value in the content that we are delivering, whether you agree or not, because you can always get value from something even if you disagree with it. It all depends on your perspective and how you look at things. But be that as it may, we are very thankful for those who subscribe to the channel, because the highest form of compliment that we can be given is knowing that we provide value to folks who are so inclined to click on any of our content. Additionally, please check us out on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just trying to be available in all places possible. So if you are not in position to check us out via YouTube or watch videos, or you just have a preference for listening to podcasts and audio versions of information, go ahead and look us up and add those to your favorites list on your feeds on those various platforms, because we are there as well. But otherwise, hope everybody out there is having a good week, man. We certainly appreciate you joining us along for the ride. To all of our community members who are further north, we hope that you are doing well, braving these frigid temperatures. As a South Floridian, I don't know how you guys do it, but I have the utmost respect for you, because I'll say it, man, and I'll be honest about it. Once the temperatures get into the low 60s for me, things are getting a little tricky in terms of it being too cold. Like once you get below 65 degrees, I'm reconsidering whether I'm going to be outside. So, so I got a lot of respect for all y'all braving those frigid temperatures up north. Hope things start to warm up soon. But if the forecast coming up here is any indication, we're going to be hunkering down for a few more days, because some of that is even coming our way down in South Florida, where we're going to get into the 30s and 40s by the end of this weekend. So I am not looking forward to that. But global warming is real, folks. Look it up. That one is not made up. Trust me. But we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off. First thing that we are going to discuss is a topic that I believe we have covered at this point once before, discussing Lil Durk and his murder for hire situation. So Lil Durk is in prison, or is it jail? How is it classified? I believe he's in prison currently, awaiting for the start date of his murder for hire trial. And apparently the prosecution is looking to use rap lyrics as evidence of his status as a guilty participant in this situation. And his defense team is looking to remove his music as evidence in the trial, because they just feel like it's irrelevant to the situation, and it's just not necessarily something that the prosecution should be able to use as leverage when trying to state their case. So this says Lil Durk demands removal of his music as murder for hire trial evidence. The use of hip-hop lyrics in court has always been a controversial legal matter, and Lil Durk's murder for hire trial is the latest example of that. According to Complex, his legal team wants the court to remove a dozen lyric snippets, songs, and music videos from the government's proposed evidence against him in this case. Per a brief reportedly filed in federal court on Friday, which was January 23rd, defense attorneys argued that his music-based evidence pool carries an extraordinary risk of unfair prejudice. They claim that prosecutors' arguments to use this material rest on direct evidence, and that is inextricably intertwined with their charges against Lil Durk. However, the defense team pushed back on this idea, since no evidence confirms when these songs were written or who wrote any specific line. They say this music is irrelevant and misleading in the case due to its general subject matter found in other rap music whose artists are not on trial. Eric Nielsen, the co-author of 2019's Rap on Trial, Race Lyrics and Guilt in America, submitted a declaration in support of this brief. It argues that the proposed evidence is of similar type, content, and substance as a large percentage of music produced by other artists in the same genre as the defendants. Also, Lil Durk's legal team had another argument to try to counter this musical evidence. They pointed out how prosecutors allegedly changed their list of proposed evidentiary music over time, causing doubt in their true weight. Defense lawyers believe this strategy aims to prejudice the jury to the content matters offensive nature. Lil Durk's trial begins on April 21st of this year. Prosecutors allege that he placed a $1 million hit on Quando Rondo that led to a 2022 Los Angeles shooting that took the life of Lil Pab. Lil Durk has denied the charges against him and awaits the court. Authorities arrested him in October 2024, with many other artists expressing support for him. This case has led to a lot of scrutiny concerning previous rap feuds and his lyrical content. We'll see if the defense team's push is successful when it comes to this evidence. So, yeah, there you go. Lil Durk's defense team is trying to suggest that using old rap lyrics creates an environment of prejudice that works against him, but otherwise doesn't serve as actual evidence. So do you think that the defense team has a point there, or do you think the rap lyrics should be fair game?
I think they do have a point, like legally speaking, because unless like some of the music that they're using actually involve some of the names involved, because sometimes these guys would actually use the person that's either been unalived or some of their associates or something like that in their lyrics. So if he's naming names or similar situations or circumstances, and the government can prove that these are related names or satellite type situations, then the defense has no leg to stand on. Then I would say at that point you can use it in court. But if they're just using random, violent bars or random gang bars to paint a narrative, granted, whether the narrative may be true or not, it's still random stuff that has nothing to do with the case in itself. So at that point, yeah, I would say that the defense has the right to say that. But in general, if I were the defense for Lil Durk, I mean, this is definitely step one for me. I mean, I would do the same thing. I would have this stuff thrown out because these rappers do incriminate themselves. And even if it's not dealing with the situation directly, it still would, I know for sure, sway the jury. Now I know that the jury, they're going to do their interview process or whatever. So I'm sure there's going to be people in there that really don't know who Lil Durk is, or may know of him a little bit, but not enough of it. So I'm sure that type of stuff's going to be going on. Much like myself, like I know of Durk, I've heard some of Durk's songs, but right now, if you pinned me down and told me that, is he talking about the situation directly about Quando Rondo or somehow about that, I wouldn't know. So now, so I know that there's going to be people on the jury that if they heard some of these lyrics, they were like, yeah, throw this guy under the jail.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, part of the defense, I think that this should be step one for them, to try to paint a clear, a clear picture of the guy instead of what everybody assumes he is. Because I'm telling you right now, as soon as this whole situation happened, the internet they pretty much already condemned the man. It was like, yeah, it's a wrap for this dude. Especially since there was already people allegedly close to him that, gave information and gave this, gave that. The internet sleuths have already, thrown this guy in for life, double life. So, the jury of public opinion has already crucified the man. So I don't know what else his defense team could do besides remove potential evidence um, that doesn't really directly impact this case per se. So yeah, I think that the defense has the right stance here. Will they ultimately get that? I don't think so. I think that the government is gonna, I'm pretty sure they have some roundabout reason to do it. They did it to Young Thug. Um, I'm sure they're gonna do it here. Now Young Thug is out now. So what did that actually do? Money talks in these situations. So hopefully Dirk got enough money to get himself out of this. If I were him, of course, I would want to get out of this, but the money would talk. But still, the jury, they might get swayed if they hear some of those crazy bars. But what are your thoughts, man, on Lil Durk defense saying, "Hey, man, you got to throw out all these jail and prison bars, so the jury isn't swayed one way or the other." What are your thoughts, man?
I understand both sides of it. I understand why the defense team is doing that, and I agree that if I was on the defense team, I'd be doing the same thing, because I agree with their logic, which is when you are dealing with a rapper who makes music of the nature that Lil Durk's music is made, and he's on trial for the types of crimes that he's on trial for, you can create an environment of prejudice against him by using the music as evidence. I do agree with that, because I would imagine that even whether a person knows about his material or not, if presented with music lyrics in court that sound pretty crazy, and the guy's on trial for a crime that is similar to things that he's rapped about, you can create an environment of, I would call it circumstantial prejudice, that makes him look bad and does influence at least some members of the jury to think twice about whether there's validity in using that music or not. And so I can understand where the defense team would want to completely eliminate the possibility of that even coming into the equation by saying that the music shouldn't be fair game because it's irrelevant to the case. And I largely agree with them. It is irrelevant per se, because as you intimated, unless he's literally talking about the very thing that he's on trial for in the music, I feel like it is irrelevant, and you are trying to create an environment in which, there's prejudicial attitude against him in that regard. So I totally get that. But at the same time, while I'm saying that, this takes me back to the love-hate relationship that I have with this music, because, at a certain point, you can't do this reckless stuff on this music and think you just are immune to whatever's going to happen to you, for the rest of time, provided that you are actually doing things that could get you in trouble. So, it's one of those things where I kind of just wish that people in his position didn't do it anymore, especially given the fact that they are allegedly not actually doing it. So let's for the sake of argument, and I'm giving Dirk the benefit of the doubt here. Let's say, via giving him the benefit of the doubt, that he's not actually in the streets doing these things, and that he, for all intents and purposes, is merely an entertainer making music for the sake of entertainment, but he's not actually in the streets doing this stuff for real. Like, you put yourself in a potentially compromised position by continuing to perpetuate these narratives, especially when the narratives are artificial because you're not actually doing it. And so this is more of a holistic way in which I look at it, where I kind of wish that they wouldn't succumb to the perpetuation of a lot of these themes, even especially if they're not really doing it, because it can come back to bite you. And this is me giving him the benefit of the doubt, assuming that he is actually in the innocent and not doing it. I don't know if he is or not. I'm just saying, best case scenario for him, he's not really guilty of this stuff. But now, because he decided to still perpetuate the idea that he could potentially be on this stuff, he's now having to deal with trying to cut through red tape by making his music a non-factor in the trial. which is adding an additional layer of complication where that possibility could have been eliminated if he wasn't opening himself up to that level of scrutiny in the first place by continuing to make the music that is false and artificial because he's not actually doing this stuff that he's rapping about anyway. So it's just one of those double-edged swords for me where I understand what the defense team is trying to do, and I largely agree with the logic behind it, because if he isn't mentioning those specific names in the songs, and if he isn't mentioning those specific circumstances in the songs, and if there's no timestamp on when the songs were recorded, how can you use it as hard evidence other than to create an idea of doubt and prejudice towards him? So I do get that logic, but at the same time, it's like, bro, you got to be smart out here, man, because they will take advantage of every opportunity they can to bam you guys up. And if you hand them the key to lock you up, not exactly sure what people can do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in lockstep with that. And this brings up a point that I mentioned several times before, but I'll intimate it here again. Back when I was a young person and I wanted to be in the rap game, I'm listening to all of these guys, T.I., Rick Ross, Jeezys. I'm listening to all of these guys talk about all the drugs they're slanging, Lil Wayne, people that, talking about the people that he's unalived. I'm hearing all of this stuff. And while I was, in my young man stage, I would make those kinds of bars. I was doing gun bars. I wasn't really doing the drug one, but I would allude to stuff. But as I'm sitting there doing it, man, so here's the difference in that. So I think the studio gangster era, the ones that I just mentioned, I guess they would be Gen X.
Yeah.
So those guys really embody studio gangster stuff. Then us, the millennial people, I think I can speak for us that we was like, because there was this whole dynamic of, oh, you a studio gangster. You ain't really out here doing that for real. So my thing was, well, if I'm not really out here doing this for real, the bigger I get, the more I'll be able to get exposed that I'm not out here holding gaps and clapping at people and selling dope. So I didn't want to be a part of that. So I was like, you know what? Instead of me doing that, let me just rap about stuff that I actually do. I still would do a certain alludes here, but for the most part, man, it was all above board. Everything that I said had receipts to it and can be proven. And so I think our generation saw the studio gangster stuff, heard the studio gangster dynamics, and decided not to do it. Now, there were still people in the millennial class that continued on to that trend. But I think the people under us saw all of that stuff and said, y'all really studio gangsters. Y'all really out here talking that stuff. I'm really out here living this stuff. And that brings up the whole Young Thug, all of these guys getting RICO'd up, all these guys out here that are actually getting murder cases, all of this stuff that's going on with these younger people, because they saw all of that stuff. They heard all that stuff, but they said, I'm really about all that stuff. And I'm going to actually talk about stuff I actually did, which is insane. But they got that premise that they can talk about what they actually did and get away with it from the older generation that wasn't doing it at all. It's a weird situation, because you would see Rick Ross and all these other people do interviews and talk about all the bricks they sold. So then when AR-Ab gets on these little things and starts talking about all the bricks he sold and people he shot at last Tuesday, okay, he was actually talking about stuff he actually did. And so he thought he can get away with it like the other rappers did. But now, AR-Ab's locked up. Durk and all them boys that grew up in literally a war zone, they were actually talking about stuff that they did and Blasey Spleef. I took Durk for more of the he knows better not to get involved with that stuff. I think when all those guys were really getting into the street stuff, Durk actually took a more mainstream path. But even though he took a more mainstream path, he still would do his occasional drill stuff or whatever. And apparently he still was, allegedly, he was still living that life kind of sort of. So I think these young people really fell victim to an industry that was glorifying these types of things, wasn't really doing it, but glorifying them, which opened the door for people who actually do these types of things to rap about stuff that they're actually doing.
Yeah, it gave them a false sense of security.
Right. And incriminate themselves. And not only that, but just the mere fact that we're in this underworld of lyrics called trap and all this other stuff that made that type of music popular, that it will open the door for somebody like a Durk or anybody else to actually talk about trapping and all these other things, unaliving. And so just the mere fact that the industry was allowing that and prepped and pumped it up, it gave these guys a venue that's actually out here in the field doing it, to actually talk about it. So all in all, man, I think that Durk is just a reflection and a receipt of all of those things that were going on that people thought was just harmless in the early 2000s. That, oh, it's just music, man. No, man, it's just music. You thinking too deep about this. No, it's not really impacting the community. Well, here we are 20 years later, and there's guys actually getting RICO and actually facing murder trials and murder for hire trials because they was listening to all of that stuff while they were growing up. So, yeah, I think these guys are just a reflection of the signs of the times, man. And, now, who knows, with box rap coming out, who knows what the impact that's going to have, because some of those box rappers that's talking about doing it, they're actually doing that.
Yes.
But the ones that's listening to it and, talking about in there and all the other stuff that's going on nowadays, these young people that's listening to that, who knows what's going to come of that. So, good luck to everybody out there and stay safe. But I think Durk is just a cautionary tale and a receipt of the stuff that people were saying was just entertainment back in the day. I don't think it's just entertainment anymore when there's somebody that's literally on trial for this stuff. So, man, people really got to pay attention to what they're consuming, and or you're going to be in a Durk situation.
Yeah, I hear that. And to speak to your point about the box rap, when I talk about sex working becoming aggressively mainstream and normalized, the box rapping is a part of the creation of that environment. So it goes hand in hand, because even if you're not a literal sex worker, the nature of that kind of music is one in which it's increasingly culturally permissible now to leverage sex as a woman in order to get ahead in life without it being looked upon as some sort of a scarlet letter or a badge of dishonor. I do think that the nature of box rap helps to diminish the idea that is still in play, so that people can hop on to OnlyFans and all these various other channels and do these things without worrying about any cultural blowback. So it all is part and parcel with this idea of aggressive mainstreaming and aggressive normalization. And a generation ago, when it comes to the music, trap rap and drug and gun bars were also being aggressively mainstreamed at the same clip. Now, I think things are being aggressively mainstream in the last 20 years at a greater rate than they were beforehand, because of the advent of the internet and social media and your ability to, basically cultivate what messages you consume. You can basically control channels and flows of information that you come into contact with. You can't just be open to everything. You don't have to be open to anything now. You can actually create what you come into contact with via whatever it is that you follow or you like or you subscribe to. So I think a lot of these various avenues of communication have exacerbated the rate at which a lot of this aggressive mainstreaming takes place. But what we're seeing now with the box rap and the quote unquote sexual liberation and the aggressive mainstreaming of sex working we saw 20, 25 years ago with the music, where that was being aggressively normalized. And I tend to agree with you on a lot of that stuff. I think the difference, the one caveat that I would add to what you said is I don't totally think that guys like T.I. and Jeezy weren't doing it, but I do believe that once they started making music, they weren't doing it anymore.
Yeah,
So they may have been involved in it. Now, to what degree we don't know, because we do know these guys get onto the we do know these guys get into the studio and they embellish a little bit.
Right.
So what degree was their involvement? I don't know these guys, so I'm not sure. But I feel relatively comfortable saying that whatever the degree to which they were involved with a lot of these activities, the vast majority of it ceased once they started making music. So even if stuff were to come up with them, the idea of using music against them couldn't really work, because there was no speculation that any of the music was being used to talk about things that they were actively doing. Versus now, where you really don't know, because to your point, a lot of these individuals have been given a false sense of security because of what they were conditioned to believe that they can rap about this stuff into perpetuity and it won't come back to bite them. Because making music is somehow this artistic freedom where you have this cloak of invincibility around you, and even if you're saying something that actually happened, it can't come back to bite you because you're exercising said artistic license. But no, it's not really like that anymore. If you're really doing it post starting to become a music maker, you can get banned up for stuff. Apparently, that's kind of what it looks like at this point. When we look at the Durk, the Young Thug, and the what's his name, the dude that had to cop a plea and snitch to get out of trouble. What's his name?
So many of them.
He's Gunna. That's his name. Gunna.
Oh yeah. Gunna, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got these guys, and these guys were apparently actually, while making music about breaking in and sticking people up, were actually breaking in and sticking people up. So I don't know what to tell these dudes. It's hard for me to be sympathetic due to my love-hate relationship with this music. So I don't really feel bad, because I feel like at this point you should know better than to continue to do this, thinking that you can just be invincible and not get in trouble. But I also feel like, provided that what they are being put on trial for isn't true, it is a bit unfair for that music to be used against them. If for no other reason than it's not actual evidence, it's just used to create a prejudice towards them. I don't like that either, but at the same time, this is what being conditioned to believe in this music is raw. So it depends on your perspective and how you look at it.
Right. And that's pretty much where I'm going to lean on, is that this just is what it is. It's unfortunate that we're here in time and history, but this is just what it is. And that these guys are, I mean, victim, you can use that word if you want, but I'm going to use it, but I'm just saying they're just a victim of the circumstances because of everything that was put in front of them, because there was actually a lane and an avenue to make this type of music popular in the first place. If this music was shunned, frowned upon from jump, there is no lane for this type of behavior. There is no lane for this type of music. People wouldn't be making this music because the community as a whole frowns upon it. So if that went on initially, then there's no oxygen for this fire to grow. But since this fire is now a wildfire and it's just out of control, and it touches every community in every urban area, all right, that at this point, because of who we are and where we come from, there's a natural empathy for guys that live in those areas of, damn, man, y'all got caught up in that, in that wildfire. But had there been a standard of, well, we're not going to tolerate that, there's pushback on box rap. There is pushback on box rap. We're one of the people that push back on it. There's other people on the internet that push back on it. But as a whole, it's still not being frowned upon enough. So at that point, the wildfire is spreading. And then that will impact people later, because the wildfire is in every urban area. So at some point, yeah, man, there is an area of, where you go, damn, this is unfortunate as an entire circumstance. But the main reason is there has to be a level of standard and code where people just go, look, man, I don't care. Like music that talks about unaliving other people is not cool, period. Like we don't tolerate that. Music that talks about selling drugs to our people is not cool. So if that is a standard, then when you hear music about it, there won't be a level of empathy in your mind for people that go, hey, I sell dope, because you in your mind you're like, well, I don't want to hear that. Just think of any egregious crime, and then somebody making music about it to a beat. I don't care how tough the beat is. You're gonna be like, ain't no way I'm co-signing this. You wouldn't have any level of empathy for that rapper or anybody else that mimicked that rapper because you completely stonewalled that as unacceptable. But somewhere in our culture, it wasn't stonewalled as unacceptable. So that's where this fire has gotten as big as it is. And then now we get Durks and everything else. So that's why I said the same thing going on with box rap. There are people up against it, but it's not enough within the community to stonewall and be completely against it. So yeah, we're going to see the same thing because there's already sex work and crazy stuff going on now, but I don't think we've seen the worst because again, there's a new generation of women that are being trained and conditioned to sell their bodies. And so, yeah, man, this is a wild circumstance, but at some point we do have to put our foot down. Yeah, there's us that push against it, but there's going to have to be more people that literally put our feet down and start shaming these people that are talking about all of this crazy stuff. Will it happen? Highly doubt it, but that's the barometer. And until we do that, we're going to continue to see our community become air quote victims of these wildfires.
Yeah, I do agree that that's the change that would need to happen. That's the shift requirement, but yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, there's too much money being made off of the content. The industry as a whole is mainstream this the same way that the American culture of consumerism has mainstream sex working. So it would require. So let me take that back. The shift, in my opinion, that would be needed, oddly enough, would be the elimination of the capitalization impact on it. It has to be less lucrative. It would have to be something that doesn't make as much money, which in a roundabout way could involve a societal standard of establishment of standard where we say it isn't permissible. Because on a whole, if it isn't as permissible, then it won't make as much money. So I guess in a roundabout way, we're both saying the same thing now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, that's the type of shift that would be needed. But as long as this stuff continues to make money the way that it does, this is going to happen again and again and again. And you'll be seeing a whole bunch of people online talking about free this guy and free that guy and blah, blah, blah. So.
Hey man, it's crazy. Hey, shout out to Chicago, man. I know there's Chicago viewers and listeners out there, so shout out to y'all, man.
Yeah, I guess. Shout out to the Bulls.
D Rose.
Now we have Kanye West, who is making amends for his past transgressions. Kanye West is currently making the rounds, apologizing to all those that he hurt or offended in the past. He's going on press, I think it was the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. He wrote some article basically saying, I apologize. I love Jewish people. I don't love Hitler. I am not anti-Semitic. He also apologizes to the Black community saying, I'm sorry that I let you down. So, Kanye is now attributing all of this over the past few years to a prolonged manic state in which he was not in his right state of mind. And I guess this is going to become an expose on mental health and all of this other stuff. But as he gears up, of course, to, release an album, he is now on his contrition tour. He is now on his contrition tour to, let people know that that's not who he really is. And he wants to make amends and apologize for everything. So this says Kanye West denies apology letter to Black and Jewish communities is a PR move. this isn't who I am. So, of course, the context for this is in light of the fact that he has music coming out, people are wondering whether he is doing this just for, positive PR. Some people are speculating that this is disingenuous, and the only reason why he's doing it is to try to save face for the sake of the continuation of his music career and to maximize on the potential of this album that he has coming out. But he wants to refute that idea because he wants everyone to know that this is actually genuinely him. In an interview with Vanity Fair, the artist formerly known as Kanye West denied that his apology letter to the Black and Jewish communities is a PR strategy ahead of the arrival of his new studio album, Bully. In a newly published interview, Ye answered several questions about his Wall Street Journal published letter, in which he claimed a 4-month manic episode destroyed his life and hit back against the idea that he apologized to revive his commercial viability. It's my understanding that I was in the top 10 most listened to artists overall in the US on Spotify in 2025, and last week at most days as well. My upcoming album, Bully, is currently one of the most anticipated pre-saves of any album on Spotify too. My 2007 album, Graduation, was also the most listened to and streamed hip-hop album of 2025. This, for me, as evidenced by the letter, isn't about reviving my commerciality. He said that he felt compelled to apologize because of the remorse he felt. These remorseful feelings were so heavy on my heart and weighing on my spirit. I owe a huge apology once again for everything that I said that hurt the Jewish and Black communities in particular. All of it went too far. I look at wreckage of my episode and realize that this isn't who I am. As a public figure, so many people follow and listen to my every word. It's important that they realize and understand and it's important that they realize and understand what side of history, that's one of my favorite phrases, that I want to stand on, and that is one of love and positivity. He added that he didn't feel regret about his actions, which included releasing t-shirts featuring a swastika and recording a song entitled Hail Hitler, until he came out the other side of a manic episode caused by his bipolar type 1 disorder. Mm-hmm. He said that he's been making an effort to mend his relationships that were strained because of his behavior, which became increasingly difficult for many of his collaborators to justify over the last few years. Every day that I wake up, it's a checklist of everything that I said, at least what I can recall, while in a bipolar episode. All of the family bonds, deep relationships, and lifelong friendships that I worked so hard to build over so many years were all tarnished by all of the horrible statements that I made so impulsively. The antipsychotic drug took me into a really deep depressive episode. My wife recognized that, and we sought out what's been effective in stabilizing course correction in my regime. I don't know if he means regimen, from a rehab facility in Switzerland. He also explained that he's been at his most manic, that when he's been at his most manic, he would find himself not believing that he is in fact sick. You think that everyone else is deeply overreacting. You feel like you're seeing the world so much more clearly on things, when in reality, you're losing your grip entirely. That's what it felt like at that time. Let's see. In his letter, Ye said that his near fatal car crash in 2002 caused him to suffer neurological damage that went unnoticed at the time. He wrote that he's deeply mortified by his actions. I am committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did, though. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. He also apologized to the Black community and wrote, I am so sorry to have let you down. So we don't need to read the rest of that. That's pretty much the gist of what we have going on here. So yeah, bro, Kanye is trying to make amends, very similar to somebody who's in rehab, like an alcoholic who goes to meetings and all of that kind of stuff. Part of the rehab process is you have to make amends with those that you may have offended or impacted while you were abusing alcohol, for example. This kind of sounds a lot like that. So yeah, the floor is yours. What do you make of Kanye trying to make it clear that this is not for PR and that he actually means these things?
I mean, if clearly this has something to do with his album, if he can say that it's not. Every time Kanye has an episode or anything like that, or a spiritual revelation or any damn thing, it's always centered around an album. This guy, at this point, one of the better things that I have is pattern recognition. I'm pretty darn good at pattern recognition. I keep a lot of receipts, as the people say, and I just log them in, right here in old noggin. And one thing that I've realized that Kanye has been doing is he goes viral for whatever reason, and then not too long after that, he's got an album coming out. Was part of this manic episode his spiritual awakeness, where he was out here, loving on Jesus and doing all this other stuff. But then right after that, having these sex-filled bars where he's just talking about the most egregious things ever. Was that a part of his manic episode? When did this manic episode begin? Did it only begin when the anti-Semitic stuff happened, or how long has this been going on? Because this honestly just feels like what he does. You can blame it on your bipolarism and say that this was going on here and this is going on there, but I don't know who he's fooling with any of that anymore. He's played this card so many times, not this card in particular, but he's played this card before of, again, doing or saying whatever to get on everybody's algorithm. And then, oh yeah, by the way, I got an album coming out, it's getting old. He's definitely has the philosophy of any publicity is good publicity. I brought up Machiavelli the last stream, but he has a real Machiavellian approach to branding and advertising, because he'll do or say whatever, morals be damned, just so he can get a lot of streams. So I'm not buying this. He can say that this is not to be more commercial. That's cap. He can say this has nothing to do with his album. That's cap. It's just one of those things where somebody is just they're already telling you what they're doing when they say that they're not doing it. Who said you were doing that, Kanye? I could have assumed that, but there's this complex within himself to say that, okay, it's not about this, it's not about that, it's really about this over here. And it's just like, nah, I'm not going for that. It's the same stuff that he did for him creating his Christian stuff and his Christian label, all his Christian merch. He just wanted to exploit that community. Then he comes over here, he starts doing all this, anti-Semitic stuff and all this, hoopla. He really made a song called Heil Hitler. I mean, he really did that. Swastika merch, everything. He went full bore. So at this point, you're pissing off everybody. You're pissing off the people that you were actually offending with that. Then there were people actually backing you. Now those people are going to call you a sellout. So at this point, bro, who is going to be your real fans? I look at Kanye as a meme of a person. He has really gone from musical genius. He really had it all going for himself.
Yeah.
The narrative around him is that this guy's a musical genius or whatever type of genius. Now this guy has just become a meme of a human. Now he's the point and laugh at guy. He's the guy that there's going to be a documentary on about not how much of a genius he was. It was how much of a crazy man he was. So, yeah, man, for a guy that was sitting on top of the world for quite a long time in the music world, has thrown it all away. I'm not buying this. I think this is just another PR stunt. Will I listen to his stuff? I will for, giggles. I'll just see what Bully's talking about. But I'm sure there's going to be sex, driven bars and deranged, crazy things being said in there too. So I can get a good laugh at it and go, yeah, this man's still off his rocker. So sorry, Kanye, not buying this. I do think it's a PR move. And I don't think you genuinely mean what you're saying. I don't think you ever genuinely mean what you're saying at this point, Kanye. But what are your thoughts, bro, on Kanye West coming out and formally apologizing, saying that, hey, man, this was all part of a manic episode? What are your thoughts, bro?
As an individual who has firsthand experience being around someone who's close to him while they are experiencing a manic episode, I can empathize with that notion because I've been through it. A couple years ago, I learned for the first time that someone I'm very close to in my family has struggles with this very thing. And I can attest to the fact that it's not made up. I was around them for about a week, and it was like I was around a completely different human. I almost didn't recognize them. So that's a real thing. I've been through that, so I get it. However, you know, as much as I can empathize due to my personal experience with it, I also at the same time wish that he wasn't doing this in advance of an album coming out, because there's an aspect of this that just feels like, even if it isn't, there's a I can't help but wonder whether you would be doing this if there was no album coming out. Like, would you be compelled to make amends if you didn't stand to gain something via your album coming out? Like, let's say you have no projects in the pipeline and you just are experiencing this fresh moment of clarity and you've gained the mature wherewithal to deal with your challenges head on. But there's no press you got to do. There's nothing you're promoting. You don't have no projects. You don't have no fashion lines to do. You don't have nothing going on. You're just walking out of the rehab center with a, clear vision and you want to make amends. I would be more understanding of that approach than I'm here to make amends. And by the way, this is not PR, despite the fact that I have this album coming out that I want y'all to listen to. And him prefacing him combating the idea that it isn't PR by talking about how much he's in the algorithm on Spotify, to me, doesn't really assist him in dispelling that idea, because to me, it assists in people believing that it's about PR, because you want everybody to know that despite all of these challenges, you are still someone who is highly sought after in terms of the spins and the algorithms on these streaming networks. So all the way around, I just wish that it was a bit cleaner for me. I don't want to take away from whatever it is that he's going through, because again, I've experienced it. So, if it is indeed real and he was experiencing manic episodes for 4 months while he was doing some of this music, then that's fine. But why not drive the point home that this is something that you are really making a concerted effort to round out in your life? Why not take that approach instead of taking the approach that you want to make amends before you have an album coming out? There's just an aspect of that to me that's a bit disingenuous. So, as you intimated, there's always a catch with Kanye, unfortunately. There's a point to be made with anything that he grandstands on, which is not the way he was when he first came out. Now everything is just about trying to let everybody in the room know that you are the smartest person around. You're the most insightful person around. You're the most gifted person around. You're the most intellectual person around. There's always a gimmick or a catch when it comes to whatever he's doing from a public relations or a public statement standpoint. And the existence of this album, to me, kind of pokes a bit of a hole in his balloon when it comes to his making of amends. But, be that as it may, who am I to judge? If he wants to make amends and release an album at the same time, go for it. It is America. You can do whatever you want around here for the most part. So who am I to stop him? But for me, it just kind of looks a little weird. And I just wish that he wasn't releasing music at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, and I can empathize with, mental health issues, ones that he, says that he has. I can empathize with that because I know how real that can be. But at the same time, when you're dealing with somebody that has these episodes, there's only so far the empathy can go, because at that point, due to their condition, you really can't trust anything that they say. And so, should I trust this? Probably not. So I'm going to have to bucket this as another thing that your condition does. Because whether you're getting those spins or not in the algorithm, that's fine. But you pissed off a lot of people who have a large say in a lot of things. So you might want to apologize to be a little bit more commercial. And it might not have to do necessarily with your spins. Probably has to do with other things, like in the fashion world or other things that you've burned bridges because you made an anthem about a man who did genocide against that community. So you might want to apologize to those people, because it is, whether he wants to admit it or not, it's cutting off a certain kind of stream of revenue. Now, the more that he actually does this apologizing, because I don't think he's going to stop here. I think he's going to probably do other things like an interview or something, and he's going to further express his remorse for doing certain things publicly. So at this point, he would have to publicly continue his apology tour. It probably would open the door for more sponsorships or more of this, more of that, more brand deals or whatever, because at the end of the day, this guy is a cash cow. But you did rub a large portion of financial backing the wrong way. So, it's in his best interest, man. He's still a young man, and he's still got a lot more money to make. And again, you cut off the wrong you burnt the wrong bridge.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's just like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So he's better off doing this. But again, we're talking about somebody that self-admittedly has manic episodes. So yeah, at this point, for months on end, maybe even years on end, who knows? So at this point, you really can't trust anybody that's on that, because he can just pull the rug from up under you again. Again, this is why I brought up the whole Christian angle that he did, and he was running a whole Christian stick for so long. Came out with a Christian album, I think more than one album. Came out with clothes and all this other stuff to push the Christian stuff, and then right after that, came out with the most sinful music I've ever heard. Okay, just absolutely just corn on wax. Some of the stuff that he talks about. So he did a 180. So here he is again. He did Heil Hitler. So now he's doing another 180, probably just to do another 180 later. So I can't go for anything this guy says. I've been lost trust in this man. He's done way too much flip-flopping, for better or for worse. And so I'm just going to take this as just another thing to make me laugh. And I'll just wait for the next thing that he does that makes me laugh. I didn't know he had a new episode geared up. I guess it's the season just started this year, so this is episode 1. So there's going to be episode 2, 3, and 4 of this whole thing that he's got going on. And I'll be paying attention. I think that this is entertaining, but I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it.
Yeah, he is in the unenviable position of and I'm assuming that he's being sincere. He is in the unenviable position of having to go through this process while people correctly speculating the proximity of his offended parties to his personal branding and business dealings, right? So like there is a clear relationship or association proximity between his business interests and those who are in positions to continue to keep those pipelines open, and the group of individuals whom he offended. Yes. And so even though you're sincere in saying these things, one can't help but wonder whether there is an extra added motivation for you to do this based upon the fact that you offended people who are literally in the positions to keep the floodgates of your career open. And when it boils down to that, whether you can say all day long that you're sincere and it's not PR, the fact of the matter is, if you make those amends effectively enough, you'll be able to keep those floodgates open. And so I don't think it's beyond the pale for people to wonder at that point whether the purposes of this are at least in some respect having to do with PR. And he is in a no-win situation because of that. Because whether he's sincere or not, that's nevertheless going to be a question that people are asking. And if it works, it is going to be a byproduct that's met regardless. Like, that is what's going to end up happening, is the people who run these clothing companies and the people who run the movie studios and the people who run the record labels, the people who are in charge from a corporate standpoint, a lot of those individuals do identify with the community whom you offended. If you make amends effectively enough, whether you're sincere or not, then you can continue to sustain your career and your livelihood into the future. Mm-hmm. So people wondering whether there is some level of insincerity attached to it because of that reality is reasonable. And he put himself in that position and has no one to blame but himself for it. But I do nevertheless believe that it's a reasonable suspicion and a reasonable question for people to ask. I think he would be better served if he was doing this while completely suspending his music career. But that's just my opinion. People are going to do what they do. So good luck to him, but he's definitely in a lose-lose situation. And he's in a lose-lose situation that, quite frankly, he put himself in. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And last thing I'll say, man, is he didn't tweet a book like Kyrie did. He didn't, like a post, or he didn't say anything once. This guy went on complete rants, stating anti-Semitic things, all right, and inflammatory things, and then made an anthem about a man that committed a genocide against that community. Sold merch about it. So this isn't just a post. This isn't just a one thing over here, one thing said over there. I mean, this went on for a while.
That's why he's emphasizing that it was a prolonged.
Prolonged.
That's why he's emphasizing that it was a prolonged manic state.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to be in a prolonged state of apologizing. Okay, so you better go ahead and kiss the rabbi. Go to Israel, kiss the wall. You got a lot of forgiving to do, buddy. Because they're not gonna just let you off the hook with one post, because you made more than one post about them. So good luck, bro. But I'll still be tuning in to get a good laugh, man, because there's nothing like Kanye in the algorithm to give me a good chuckle on a daily basis.
Well, if you ask me, man, Kanye lost his fastball. Kanye lost his fastball. So, yeah, good luck to him, but I think he lost his fastball.
He lost a lot more than that, I'll tell you that. Hell no.
We move on to Nas, who I didn't actually know this, but Nas has a grant program or a fellowship program with Harvard, Harvard University, the Ivy League university here in the States. Where's Harvard? In Massachusetts, right? I think it's like in Massachusetts, something like that.
In Pennsylvania, but
yeah, something like And so there's a grant program that is named after himself. It's his namesake, and that grant program is currently taking applications to get people into Harvard so that they can study all sorts of things. I believe this is a curriculum that he had a hand in curating. So I always like to talk about stories like this just to get, some eyes and ears on the fact that these are the kinds of things that some people are spearheading in the community. So this says Nas's Harvard Fellowship is now taking applications. Harvard University is now taking application for the Nasir Jones Hip Hop Fellowship for the 2026-27 academic year. Students who seek admission into the program will have until January 30th, 2026 to apply. Nas shared the news on his Instagram page last week. The Fellows Program is at the heart of the W.E.B. Du Bois Research Institute. It provides a supportive, vibrant environment for for intellectual and artistic community, advancing research and creativity in African and African American studies and across the African diaspora. Each year, about 20 fellows and residents from Africa, Asia, the Indian Ocean, Europe, North America, the Caribbean, and Latin America work on projects that are begun, advanced, or completed during their term. Fellows include scholars in the humanities, social sciences, arts, sciences, and technology, as well as writers, journalists, filmmakers, musicians, and visual artists. It concludes fellowship projects can span areas such as art and art history, Afro-Latin American studies, design, education, hip hop, African and African diaspora studies, African American studies, Indian Ocean studies, literary studies, and creative writing. Fellowships are offered for the fall semester, spring semester, or the full academic year. Those interested in applying for Nas's fellowship can find more information on Harvard's website. The application includes 3 letters of reference, a resume or CV, a detailed project description, and a writing sample. Nas originally teamed up with Harvard University to launch the fellowship back in 2013. At the time, the school billed it as the first academic fellowship named after a hip hop artist. In the years since, Nas has continued to build his legacy in the genre. He's teamed up with Hit Boy for a series of critically acclaimed albums that helped him earn the Best Rap Album Grammy Award in 2021. Through his Mass Appeal Records, he also put together a Legend Has It series, which highlighted new albums from several legends of hip hop, including Ghostface Killer, Raekwon, Mobb Deep, De La Soul, Big L, and Slick Rick. So there you go. Nas's hip hop fellowship is now taking applications at Harvard for the 2026-27 academic year. So what do you think about that program, bro?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's pretty cool, I guess. Whenever these rappers get these either fellowships in this case, or become a professor or something like Mos Def does, and they start doing their thing at these esteemed universities. I guess that's a bit of a flex. I think that's pretty cool. One thing that I did notice is that rappers like Nas, Mos Def, these guys, I don't know who does the reaching out first. I don't know if it's the university or these guys, but I think the universities reach out because they want to study the minds of these street poets, these guys that come from these urban areas, but have a way of articulating their realities in a way that moves people. These guys are modern Shakespeare's and modern philosophers in their own right.
Well, the ones like, well, no, I'll take that back.
What?
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, yeah, you're right about the guys like Mos Def and Nas. But no, I guess even guys not like them move people too, just in a different way. So
yeah. And I think the guys that are on the, that are high up on that list, like the Nas's and stuff, I think, because whether we know it or not, this music gets studied behind closed doors, whether Nas or Mos Def is there. I know for sure that I forgot where I seen this at or whatever, but somebody was talking about how there's people that sit in rooms and classes and stuff like that actually sit down and break down Kendrick Lamar's lyrics.
Well, there's a course that he curated too. So yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
and so this is what goes on in these esteemed universities and stuff like that, because these guys are doing something special that later on down the line will be seen, as I mentioned, as modern day Shakespeare's and Edgar Allan Poe's and stuff like that, because of the types of music that they make and the way that they're able to convey certain realities through their lyrics. it does move people. Um, there's plenty of songs that Nas has made um, that changed my reality just by listening to the songs. I got really large into Nas music, probably like um, 2007 to I don't know 2009 or whatever. Just listening to old stuff. When I was in college, just listening to a lot of Nas stuff. And when I was listening to his music, it put me in a perspective because at the time there wasn't too many people that were saying stuff that had substance in it, and especially that were considered mainstream. So me listening to Nas music, it really helped change my perspective on reality in a lot of ways. So I say all that stuff to say is that these universities, they like these types of dudes because they are a certain type of special. So I would like to think that maybe Harvard probably reached out to him. I don't know how it went down, but the mere fact that they have this collaboration speaks to what they think of our type of poetry. And for the high level scholars that are out there that actually put this stuff on wax like that. So it'll be interesting to hear what kind of things are done with this. But overall, I just think that this is these institutions recognizing the power of what hip hop does and what these lyrics, how they can change or alter people's realities. But what are your thoughts, man, on Nas having a fellowship with Harvard? I don't know if you looked it up, probably did, but yes, and it's in Massachusetts. But what are your
Yeah,
thoughts, bro?
yeah. So yeah, Kendrick Lamar. There's a college course at Temple University
Mm-hmm.
called Kendrick Lamar and the Morale of Mad City.
Okay.
So like that's an entire course that's built around his life and his music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'll take it a step further. You know how I feel about this education stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm a big believer in the idea. I think education is an important component to success in life, but I also, and a lot of this has to do with my own personal experience in education. I also do think that it's important for people to be targeted and specific with their approach to education so that they can position themselves to be viable in future markets. One of the things that I'm very passionate about, but also something that breaks my heart when I see it,
Mm-hmm.
is when the world potentially can just throw people into a wastebasket and discard them as being worthless and meaningless because they don't have anything to contribute to the world as it is presently constructed, either because they don't have, well, primarily because they don't have the requisite knowledge or skill sets in order to contribute to the world in a way that helps to make the world continue to move. I feel very passionate about people orienting their education around that idea, because the last thing that I want to see is people being discarded because they no longer possess any of the requisite skills that the world has dictated they need in order for them to be able to contribute to. So I just
Mm-hmm.
want people to continue to be as viable as they can for as long as possible. That is like my primary stance when it comes to education as a whole. But within the context of this particular Nas fellowship, I also like it because of its position to provide a juxtaposition to a lot of the incorrect fallacies that are taught at the grade school level. And I think that programs like this, based upon what I'm reading, can open up the doorway for people to learn that all the things that were taught in basic grade school aren't exactly accurate or aren't exactly the real story. So I'm very appreciative of the notion of teaching the African diaspora, so long as they are teaching the actual African diaspora and not the liquidated, watered down version of the African diaspora that was taught to me when I was in high school. because it's important for a lot of us who aspire to be scholars and educators and contributors to society to know that a lot of the things that we have come to accept as important aspects of modern human civilization were things that, going back thousands of years, weren't originally developed or learned in Greece or Rome, but were learned in Africa, in Egypt, for example. Not enough people are knowledgeable about these things, and more people should be knowledgeable about these things. And based upon all the background research that I've done on this particular program, it's these types of fellows that open the door for people to acquire that knowledge. I think it's important for people to know that, individuals like, Hippocrates and Plato and Aristotle and Archimedes, they didn't learn this stuff that they learn and eventually contribute to the world in Greece. They learned this stuff in Africa, specifically in Egypt. And they took it back. They took their education back with them to Greece, and they developed these theorems and all of these, constructions and all of these other things that eventually went on to revolutionize the world. A lot of that stuff was developed in Africa, in Egypt. And there's countless other examples like that that are replete throughout world history that has been, quite frankly, whitewashed by the education system that we were forced into. You like to colloquially refer to it as a concentration camp. But I like the idea of this program because people like Nas rap about that in their music. Mm-hmm. If you listen to Nas's Untitled album, which had a different title before he was forced to change the name of it.
Good times.
Right. Like he raps about a lot of this stuff in his music. Mm-hmm. And prior to the emergence of this program, I would imagine that only people who listen to this music, such as myself, were privy to this information if you didn't have the privilege of learning these things via whatever formal education you were able to expose yourself to. But if it's being taught at Harvard and it's this exclusive program that people have to compete to be a part of at the highest levels of, the ivory tower, so to speak, then I think that it opens up the door for that level of understanding that can allow us to curate a more comprehensive form of education that tells the whole truth and not just a liquidated, watered down version of the non-truth. So I like the fact that it symbolizes that, and I hope more of it continues to happen because we are in dire need of it as standardization and liquidation and the continuation of whitewashing at the education level remains a mainstay, particularly in this country. I can't speak for other countries because I don't know how other countries work, but these are things that are definitely still in place here. And I like the fact that programs like this can offer an antithesis to that. Hopefully at some point in the future, we can see it, kind of not need to be at Harvard, for example.
Well, yeah, that's another point,
right? Yeah. But I'll take what I can get for now. So we'll see how things pan out. But I got to give props where it's due. I've always tremendously respected Nas. As crazy as it sounds, because I'm the biggest Jay-Z fan that I know. But post music, when it comes to other things in the world, and even like post prime musically, I found myself drifting more to the Nas side of things. And especially when it comes to stuff like this, I of course find myself drifting more to the Nas side of things. So I don't know. I got a lot of love for Nas. I got a lot of respect for him. None of this because of his past actions and his behaviors. I have no reason to believe that there's an aspect of Kanye involved here. So I like this personally, but that's just how I see it.
All right, man. Well said, bro. And I remember where I heard that thing from, where people were studying Kendrick stuff. It was actually when I was a cab driver. And this is when I was taking all those frat kids to their frat house at FSU. So there was, the frats at FSU. Yeah. There's the jock guys. There's the animal house. And then, there were like these these really from privilege, really affluent parents, guapped up kids, and they absolutely loved music. So whenever I picked them up and I was actually playing real rap, they loved that. And I had like clients from there that I would always drop off at their house or whatever. Those kids, they said they would literally go and have like study sessions on Good Kid, Mad City. And that's where I first heard that a whole bunch of kids from another community are actually studying our lyrics, and he was like, no, bro, we actually get in there and we study his stuff. I'm like, wow, that's a first. I've never heard of that, coming from y'all. I figured that happens. And the reason why I bring that up is that the musical genius that comes from us, like you mentioned, that Nas actually puts history in his stuff. And so if you're listening, you heard what he said. That's why I like Nas. Because if you're listening, you heard what he said. And, back when the whole Jay-Z beef was going on, which really ignited my whole thing for him. And I'm sitting there listening to Stillmatic. I listen to that all the time. And, that song, I know I can be what I want to be and all other stuff. And that verse where he was sitting there talking about empires in Africa called Kush and all that other stuff, and basically everything that you were saying that we taught the world how to do things or whatever. And I'm hearing this on BET. And I'm like, wow, this guy put this stuff in music. So he does that a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
So once his book is written, no pun intended, once it's written, he left a good library of information, art, all kinds of stuff. I mean, this guy's he is a modern philosopher, if you will, of the community. That's why Harvard wants to collaborate with him. You got to see what this is with the Ivy League thing, because I would love to see this at HBCUs and other things and all other stuff where, it's more of a give back kind of thing. All right. But I don't know what the class type fellowship ratio is going on at Harvard. But this is more of an elitist, not saying that Nas is being elite, but this is like an elitist type of, hey, we want more of this. We want more of what you got there. It's a study on him, amongst other things. And so I just really think it's interesting that this collaboration happened. I know Nas will do other things out there, but he left a lot of books out there.
Yeah.
So if there's people out there that want to know what he got to say, he gives you a good enough frame of reference. And his album with Damian Marley was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, each and every song on there is a masterpiece, if you ask me. What a wonderful album. But I did look up, just to speak on the college professor thing, because that was bothering me. But I looked up a thing where it's just some random list of some things. Some people that were actually college professors. Some of this stuff makes sense. Some of this stuff is kind of like, eh. So Questlove, from the Roots, that makes sense. Jizza, that makes sense. Lupe Fiasco, that makes sense. Swiss Beats, I can't really co-sign that one. I don't need a one-man band type of situation. So you can get out of it. I'm not going to Swiss Beats. Okay. MC Light makes sense there. Bun B makes sense. KRS-One would love to attend that. Okay. Eve doesn't really register with me. I don't understand that one, but okay. Jermaine Dupri, I guess, that makes sense.
Those must be music based. They gotta be Jermaine Dupri, Swiss Beats. That's gotta be specifically music.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ninth Wonder would love to attend that. Didn't hear that name in a while. Shame on me. All right. Producer Tay Keith, I guess, for the new people. Yeah, Killer Mike. Yeah. Killer Mike. Our boy Ye, Kanye West. He did it. Lil B. Honestly, I would love to attend that. I would love to go to that. But you got to also think there was a genius to Lil B too. That's another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
There was a genius to his madness there.
Yeah.
Lil Jon, Chance the Rapper, can't agree with that. Migos and T.I. And Mia X. Okay, so this is just a list of like 20 people or so. But I brought that up. Last thing to say, I brought that up is that there's a genius for the most part in everybody that I mentioned there. And when they're either ushered in to be professors or keynote speakers or whatever, these universities or whatever, and even if it's at a PWI of all places, especially, it's one of those things where we are so very interesting in how we alchemically create these masterpieces. And each one of these people, I make jokes about Swiss Beats, but each one of these guys do have a specific kind of genius that they got going on. And so while they're alive, have them dissected and try to figure out what actually constitutes whatever it makes. So again, to wrap that all up in a nice little bow, for Harvard, one of the more premier institutions of the world, okay, people would say, for them to have a collaboration with Nas, to me speaks to, again, the genius of Nas and what they think of the genre and what they think what he did for the genre. Yeah. So I think all of this is awesome.
I think it represents what Harvard thinks of Nas's version of the genre, not all of it. But as you mentioned, other institutions feature other aspects of the genre too. But I just like this one because beyond trying to dissect the potency of trap rap or any of these other or whatever else, like I couldn't imagine what Migos is teaching about, but yeah, I just like the fact because I don't think it's not an opinion, it's a fact that at the grade school level specifically, education is completely whitewashed. And up until I got to college myself, and started listening to started branching out and sort of giving myself independent levels of private education, I was thinking the same thing that these schools taught me, which is everything came from Greece and Rome and Mesopotamia and all of this other garbage.
Mesopotamia. Mr. Clark.
So it's just like, no, that's not the actual historical record of the world's history. It's not. And so opportunities like this to me are cool because Nas is someone whom, if you listen to his music, there's tidbits throughout his music where he is giving you the real for sure. And one of the things that I love the most is whenever I can hear somebody rap about something and I don't know what it is, but it makes me want to go research what this guy is talking about. And that happens to me a lot with Nas. It happens to me a lot with Kendrick. It happens to me a lot with Killer Mike, where it's like they'll say stuff. I consider myself to be a pretty knowledgeable human. So when something is said that I don't know about and it compels me to go and pop open Wikipedia or wherever to kind of learn what reference that is, that's pretty cool stuff. And that happens to me when listening to Nas all the time. And I have the utmost respect for him because of that, because he has this unique ability to do that while making stuff that also sounds good. For the most part, because sometimes he makes stuff that I don't like how it sounds. But for the most part, he can do this while making stuff that sounds good. And I'm telling anybody who is unfamiliar, you don't even have to go back. I'm not saying go back and listen to Illmatic or any of the earlier stuff. Go back and listen to 2008 Untitled. Just go listen to that whole thing. All right, it's literally like opening up the actual historical record, especially when it comes to like American history. You know what I'm saying? So like that whole thing, that is my favorite Nas album to this day, even beyond Stillmatic, because it just hits different. The guy is just saying stuff, and it's like, how do you put that into a song and make it sound good and rhyme on beat, and the beats sound good, and I'm also learning stuff at the same time? Just incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible stuff. And the last thing that I'll say, speaking on like how I have matured into this space where I find myself with a greater level of appreciation for Nas over Jay-Z, even though I grew up loving Jay-Z more than anybody, is Nas has been doing this stuff. And like one of the things that got on my nerves like I forget when this song came out. It either came out last year or the year before. But DJ Khaled made one of his collaboration albums, and Jay-Z was on a song with Rick Ross and Lil Wayne. God did, and Jay-Z had this long 6-minute verse where he was breaking stuff down and just going crazy. And it was a good verse, don't get me wrong, but like the media just took it and acted like he's the first person who ever did it. And it was annoying because it's like, okay, y'all are gush, like they ran segments of this verse on CNN, Fox News. It was all over the place. And I'm looking at myself like, y'all acting like Jay-Z's the first person to do this. Nas has been doing this. And he did it on that Untitled album better than what Jay-Z did. And that was, at this point, 17 years ago, if my math is right on that. So it's just one of those things where it's like mainstream commercialization strikes again, where the media is running with the commercial tentpole, which is Jay-Z. And again, did Jay-Z do his thing on that verse? Absolutely. But Nas was doing it already at a higher clip, better, with more potent historical fact. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there because Nas ain't new to this. He true to this. And if anybody does not know, I suggest that you get yourself up to speed on that, because that is not a fabrication. I'm trying to tell you right now, going, all of his stuff, but that Untitled in particular, the Illmatic and the Streets Disciple, that double album that he did, maybe about 10, 12 years ago. I forget the year that came out.
I think 07 or something like that.
Yeah. So I suggest people, get up on their knowledge of this stuff if you are unaware, because this is real. So if any of that is brought into this situation with the Harvard Fellowship, even if it is a PWI, good. Because a lot of these kids going to these PWIs, they probably also think everything started with ancient Greece. So they need to be introduced to the truth as well.
Yeah, Streets Disciples 04. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to that heavy while I was still in Miami. But yeah, man. Shout out to Nas. I agree with everything you said, bro. That's why I was always a fan of Nas, because his level of substance that he can at the time, I really thought, I was like, man, this guy's really getting away with saying stuff in music. And I'm like, how is this stuff getting released? How's this stuff getting released, man? But it wasn't mainstream, as mainstream as he was as a person. He wasn't still like on the radio, which is crazy as that sounds. Some of his songs did, but you know what I mean? Like it wasn't on the radio. So he was like, he was your favorite rapper's favorite rapper.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, shout out to Nas, man. I couldn't agree more. That's why he's top of my list as far as all-time faves, man, because the level of substance that he can put in his music, and even if it's not directly about history, it's about like manhood and other stuff.
Yeah.
That's just like, man, like, he's giving you the how-tos.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Big fan of Nas.
Yeah, for real. Absolutely.
We go from that to this.
Exactly. From insightful to clown fiesta sideshow. From insightful to clown fiesta sideshow, we have Cup 22,
exactly,
otherwise known as Adam22, of the Exploitation Podcast, formerly known as No Jumper.
Yes.
Boxing this individual by the name of Jason Luv, who busts down Adam22's wife. I can't make this up, people. Adam22 is married to a woman named Lena the Plug. They have a adults only podcast together. I don't know if they still do it, but he apparently is into alternative lifestyles. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Or they both are, and so he was agreeable in allowing his wife to engage in adult-only activity with this guy named Jason Luv on a video that I'm assuming a lot of people watched. I assume a lot of y'all degenerates out there have seen this tape. And somehow, some way, these two individuals, Adam22 and Jason Luv, ended up boxing together. And I guess you call it an exhibition match. And so there's some fallout as a result of this. But Jason Luv, who, if you see the two of these humans, Jason Luv is a significantly more big physical individual than Adam22. He's a bigger human, and one would surmise that if these two were boxing one another, it isn't a hard stretch to imagine who the winner would be. And apparently, Jason Luv won this thing in 60 seconds. And so there's some fallout from that. Jason Luv destroys Adam22 during viral boxing match, and it only took 60 seconds. Adam22 and Jason Luv finally had their boxing match as part of Aiden Ross's brand Risk 12 event in Miami, Florida. Of course it was in Miami. Of course.
Of course it was Aiden Ross.
Yeah. Any debaucherous BS activity, if it's debaucherous and BS, it's either in California or Florida, specifically Miami. There were some big names on the undercard, including YK Osiris, who lost via TKO to Scam Likely. Of course, the main event was Adam22 and Jason Luv, who have become rivals as of late, thanks to Lena the Plug. These two were destined for a big matchup, and in the end, it was Luv who came away victorious. Going into the match, everyone knew that Luv had the size advantage. However, most felt like Adam22 was surely going to put up a much better effort. In the end, he did the complete opposite. As you will see in the highlights below, Adam22 was pretty pitiful during the fight, and may as well have gotten knocked out. The referee ended up ending the fight in the first round after just 60 seconds. Adam didn't belong in the ring, and Luv was going to kill him if it went any longer. Aiden Ross, Whack 100, and DJ Academics, wow, clown, were some of the names providing the commentary, and they were absolutely shocked and appalled by what they were seeing, and rightfully so. It was the kind of shocking performance that makes you wonder what everyone involved was thinking here. The idea of Jason Luv and Adam22 in the ring seems amusing on the surface. When you take more than 2 seconds to think about it, the result becomes pretty damn obvious. Whether or not Adam22 ever gets back into the ring is something that still very much remains to be seen. For now, we imagine his boxing career is over. As for Jason Luv, it really does feel like he has a future with this stuff, or maybe it was his opponent who made him look good. Whatever the case may be, Aiden Ross has hundreds of thousands of viewers tonight, and for him, that is all that really matters. So here is a bit of video of this Clown Fiesta sideshow involving Adam22 and Jason Luv. Viewer discretion is advised for anyone who is squeamish towards profane language.
Do it! What set him up? What, you set him up? No, you didn't get a good training. You set him up. Yo, why the fuck you fuck you up? You set him up. I gave him back shots and I fucked you up. Yes! Look at him. Come on, Adam. Walk this way. Go, do the It was at this moment he realized. Check yourself. Hey, listen, bro. Check this out. Check this out. This all talking about this, bro. Oh my God. I got him straight back. I fucked you, bitch, and I fucked you up. This is all the setup. This is all the setup. And I fucked you up. I fucked you and I fucked you up.
Whoa.
What happened?
Clown Fiesta sideshow.
Unbelievable, man.
Sideshow. What do you think about this, bro?
You know, first of all, I think this is an extended. First of all, as you call him, you know, Cuck 22. This is an extension of his humiliation that he likes from being a cook. This is an extension of that, because one thing about cooks is they like being humiliated by the person that does the smashing of their wife. So this is just an extension of that. And this is him killing two birds with one stone. While he was getting beat up, he's getting his rocks off because he's into that. And B, he's getting paid to do it. And C, he's getting clout for it. So this is a win-win-win for Adam22. As embarrassing as that looks, he's into being embarrassed, specifically by the guy who smashes his wife. This is some weird, twisted stuff, if you ask me. As you mentioned, Aiden Ross, Whack 100, DJ Academics, the Adam22, this Jason Luv guy. This is just an absolute mess, but it got a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
And I'm sure these guys made some good money off of this bogus stuff. The problem is, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for you. This is for these young kids that's on Kick. This is for those 21-year-olds that was in the audience holding up their camera phones. This is what is being deemed as entertainment right now. So these adults are making weird content for kids. So me personally, I think that this is just some weird humiliation ritual that Adam22 is getting involved in with this guy. He loves the embarrassment. He loves the clicks. He loves all of it because that's just who he is. And I really think that he tries to, in his own way, like we like to talk about the normalization of things, he really goes above and beyond, because you got to think, who actually watches No Jumper? I really think it's young people. And this guy is really going through a lot of emotions to normalize a lot of degenerate behavior. And so from the gang stuff to interviewing all of these just crazy internet people, I mean, this is Jerry Springer on steroids, this guy's whole career at this point. So yeah, I just thought this was interesting because it's just Adam22 doing Adam22 things. And of course, his cabal of cronies that were theirs. All of those guys make inappropriate content for young people. And I think Adam22, his whole thing is being some level of influencer for young people. Because I'm telling you right now, there's some people out there that are Adam22 fans. Yeah, that think his behaviors are acceptable. And if you see the people that he interviews and talk to, they also think that degenerate ass behavior is acceptable. So I'm sorry to hear that it got so many views, but at the same time, unfortunately, I'm not surprised. But what are your thoughts, man, on Adam22 getting absolutely humiliated by this corn star in less than 60 seconds? What are your thoughts, man?
So there was a lot of controversy recently because there was this mega deal that went down where Netflix bought, I think it was Warner Brothers. I think there's this huge deal where Netflix acquired, let me make sure I get this right. Netflix acquires, yeah. So Netflix is acquiring Warner Brothers. Of course, it has to go through regulatory measures and it has to pass all these SEC checkpoints and whatnot. So by the time that the deal goes through, it'll probably be sometime in 2027, I believe. But Netflix is acquiring Warner Brothers, therefore all of the intellectual properties therein, for a deal worth many, many billions of dollars, a huge mega deal. And a lot of people are speculating that that's going to perhaps put the final nail in the coffin on like the theater going experience. Because people already right now aren't going to movie theaters as it is. It certainly isn't what it used to be, but it's holding on by a thread. And, a lot of people in and around the entertainment industry are speculating that because Netflix specializes in home entertainment, them acquiring so many of these IPs via owning Warner Brothers is going to steamroll this process of consolidating the movie watching experience all underneath the umbrella of just sitting at home all day. Now, Netflix has gone on the record of assuring everybody that that's not the case. They said that they are going to try to adhere to a release window for movie theaters. I forget the amount of days, some amount of days before stuff is available on Netflix, so on and so forth. But the point is, this is stoking the fear of everybody who is petrified that the theater going experience is coming to an end in the very near future. I am one of those people who believes that the theater is dying a slow death, that eventually people aren't going to go to movie theaters anymore at all. And movie theaters are going to be a thing of the past at some point. Right now, we're in I personally believe that movie theaters are in the state of transition of going from what Monster Video and Blockbuster Video were in their heyday to what Blockbuster Video was when Redbox was a thing. And then once Netflix came around and more people started using Redbox, eventually Blockbuster Video was gone. Just wasn't there. I believe movie theaters are currently in that process. And I'm getting to a point here, so just stay with me. One of the things that is exacerbating the end of the movie theater movie going experience is the emergence of content like this. It's the installation of an entirely different sensibility of what constitutes entertainment and viewing. As you mentioned, these younger generations of people don't go to movie theaters anymore because social media and the internet has conditioned new and future generations to look past going to the movies and to looking at viral content as entertainment and the viewing experience. So what for us was going to the movies to watch Independence Day is now getting on your phone and watching a clown fiesta boxing match involving these two idiots. So it's the idea of content being king in the face of the emergence of content creators and the live streaming space that has exacerbated the demise of the movie going experience. Now, you can think how you want about that. I was born in 1986, so I appreciate the movie theater experience, and I'm sad to see it go. But for anybody who doesn't care about those things, there are going to be some unintended consequences of the installation of this particular type of sensibility. Because one thing about it, going to the movies for us, there was a suspension of belief. We could go to the movie theater, spend 2 hours in there watching a movie, and by the time we left the theater, we knew that we couldn't stick to walls like Spider-Man. We knew that we weren't going to be able to take a bullet to the chest and keep and stand up and keep moving like some other invulnerable superhero, right? Like we knew that once we left that theater, reality sets in and we have to remove our suspension of disbelief. And the difference between that and this kind of stuff is that suspension of belief no longer exists because these are presumably real people doing real things in real time. Watching Adam22 and Jason Luv isn't fiction. That isn't a superhero movie. That isn't like watching Terminator or Jurassic Park. This is like reality TV on steroids.
Correct.
And it has supplanted what used to be the viewing movie-going experience. And so now instead of watching fiction as movies, instead of watching aliens or superheroes or robots or any of these other things, we're now watching real humans parading around as though they were caricatures of fictional characters doing weird sus things. And I think that the suspension of belief is going to cause other people to start replicating this kind of behavior in real time because they're real people doing real things and it's not a nonfiction movie.
Correct.
So you're going to have more buffoonery going on out here in these streets because these content creators are doing the buffoon things, becoming successful and making money off of it. So why not replicate the behavior? So all of that stuff, remember when we talked about the Minecraft movie, people being in movie theaters setting off fireworks and messing up the place, throwing bags of popcorn all over the place and screaming. Well, the reason why they felt emboldened to do that is because they were edified by whatever content they saw on their phones, suggesting that this is a trend that you can easily replicate. So go into a movie theater and set off fireworks, even though you can get somebody hurt in the process.
Correct.
But as this type of content continues to proliferate, become aggressively mainstream and normalized, just like everything else, it will no longer be appropriate for me to call this clown fiesta sideshow behavior because it just will simply be what it is.
Right.
And I'll be the one who's out of touch calling it a clown fiesta sideshow because it will simply exist in the cultural zeitgeist. And it's crazy because one of these individuals is a sex worker and the other individual is a cuck. And who's to stop, and who's to stop the next generation of people from creating more content like this, in which the insinuation is being the cuck is cool and viral worthy, and being the sex worker who knocks out the cuck is also cool and viral worthy.
Correct. And well said, bro. And I think that this isn't, if there was, listen, bro, if there was somebody that was our age invested in this, first of all, they knew about the fight before it happened. Okay. All right. And they tuned in, they downloaded Kick to make sure they watched it. I don't know what that guy's life about. I'm just go ahead and say that right now. I don't know what your life about, bro. Now, for these young people, as you mentioned, this is the wave. I mean, this young group of people that watch streamers and all this other stuff, like this. I mean, what else is there to do on a Friday night or Saturday night, whenever the hell this happened? Because this is what they watch. As you mentioned, this has become their form of entertainment. I mean, they be in these chats and they know all of these streamers and they tune into these things. And like I mentioned, Jerry Springer had its impact on our generation, and then after Jerry was finished, his boy Steve continued it. Now, Steve didn't have the same level of virality that Jerry Springer had, but there was still a lot of people watching Steve. Okay. And when you go back, and you look at some of the topics of those shows, I mean, it was degeneracy. And that is a lot of people's realities right now. Now, I'm not saying that Jerry Springer itself made people do the crazy stuff that they were doing, because people been doing crazy stuff. But what I'm saying is the affair, daytime TV stuff where it's an affair over here, there's this going on over there, there's all of this wild stuff, and then a fight, and then all this other stuff. I talked about trapping and all of the effects that stuff had on our generation when we was coming up, and then the people that was up under that watching that, thinking that this is normal behavior. And so the same thing that's going on with these streamers, because there's some wild stuff going on with these streamers, man. And these guys that were on here, okay, these guys are the new role models, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And so there's people watching this stuff thinking that being this, and you heard those guys, they would say everything that they were saying. Why were they talking like that? Why even speak like that? But this is the type of stuff that gets promoted. Last thing I'll say is that we've already talked about before that how there's industry, I've mentioned it at least, that there's industry plants in music, and how there's also industry plants in the streaming world. and that there's people behind, sponsors behind these degenerate ass streamers. And they got these people doing wild stuff on their streams, streaming from prison, streaming with all men sleepovers, streaming with this and that, the streamer awards. There's a controversy at the streaming awards. It's SA going on at the streaming awards. There's young people watching all of this stuff. And they're being tuned into SA, men sleepovers, sleeping in prisons, doing all kinds of wild stuff, cook action with Adam22 and all this other stuff, adult level content with Adam22. And this is just regular par of the course for a 13-year-old. This is the stuff that I have a problem with. That this stuff has become normalized, and they're targeting audiences. So no, they may not be at the movie theater getting indoctrinated with these slow moving ass movies, but now they got these streamers, and every night there's a stream going on, and every night they're sponsoring a new weirdo. And this Adam22 weird stuff and all of this other stuff. Why is there a sex worker involved in any of this? And that's my point. So they can say that these are adults making content for people that's whatever. Man, I wish there was a demographic breakdown. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of middle schoolers watching this stuff. So yeah, man, it's just a sign of the times, man, of sponsors and these people that prop these people up, that we even know their names in the first place, that are the new wave of people that are making content to slow down another generation of people. Yeah. So yeah, man, I just think, and so on top of all that, like I said, I think Adam gets a kick out of this. I think he enjoys the humiliation because this is all part of his weirdness. So, you know, people can say that it was embarrassing, but he loves it. You know, who else actually filmed it, their wife getting smashed by a sex worker besides this man? And he's still with that woman. He loves it. So why not get knocked out by that same dude? So yeah, man, we talked about Kanye and his mental illness. Well, there's a lot of young people right now that's thinking that this mentally ill type of stuff is normal. And that's sad. So yeah man. So yeah, 1,000 lashings for everybody that's involved with this. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think streamers have a bit too much sway over influencing people, but kids in general for sure. And like I said, I feel like the difference between like movies and TV shows, which was our form of indoctrination, is that there was a clear suspension of belief with that stuff,
right?
Versus these individuals who sell it to you as real life.
Correct.
Or it's reality TV on steroids, because there was even an aspect of suspending belief with reality TV because it was appointment viewing and you had to watch your TV to do it. You knew it wasn't live. There were all sorts of individual elements which created the environment for you to be able to kind of suspend some aspect of belief. But with these streamers, it's reality, real time. They are presenting themselves to you as, this is how I actually live. This is what we're actually doing. They're really doing this stuff. So it's harder to suspend belief now when you're watching that stuff.
Yep.
And I remember there's a movie with the Hunger Games girl, Jennifer Lawrence. She made a movie called No Hard Feelings. It's like a comedy movie. And the premise of the movie is these two wealthy people, they have a son who's getting ready to go to college, but he's very antisocial. He's never been with a woman before. They want him to kind of lose his virginity, basically. So they hire this older woman who's Jennifer Lawrence to teach him about women and to essentially lose his virginity. And there's a point in the movie where they go to this party and it's in a big house and there's a whole lot of rooms in the house, and she loses track of the kid. So she's going from door to door looking for him, and she busts open one door and there's kids in the room looking on their phone, right? So she'll open up a door and there's a guy and a girl, and it's like high school age kids. So she opens up a door and there's a guy and a girl on the phone. She opens up another girl and it's like two girls and they're on the phone. She opens up another door and it's two girls and a guy, and like there's two girls and a guy in the middle, and they're both laying on the bed, and they're all looking at the phone. And she says, doesn't anybody have sex anymore? And she didn't say sex; she used the other word. But it was a point in the movie where it was like a play on this notion of this is what these kids are doing now.
Yes.
And the answer to the question is no, they're not. They're not having sex anymore. They're not. They're watching streamers now.
Yeah.
And they're being heavily influenced by whatever streamers do. So if a streamer is getting knocked out by a cuck in a boxing ring, they're going to want to do that now. They're going to want to replicate that formula now. If a streamer is driving in a car and running over a pedestrian, they're going to want to replicate that formula now.
Yes.
So it's this all kinds of weird stuff, man. And, I guess we're old people railing against the new ways of the world, but some things are objectively true. And this stuff to me is just the promotion and celebration of degeneracy, plain and simple.
Yep, 100%, man. So, at some point, bro, I was like, I didn't know what was going on with the streaming world. I thought it just started off with video game content, I thought, but then it has gotten to this place now in 2026 where I can honestly just sit there and point and go, this is just the new cesspool for degeneracy.
Yeah.
And it's training young people how to be absolute losers. And because honestly, everybody we name, Aiden Ross, Whack 100, DJ Academics, Adam22, these are all losers. I don't even know. Scam Likely and the other person, they say, what the hell's going on? All losers. And there's a whole bunch of people idolizing this stuff. So we're going to have a generation of losers and cucks growing up. Box rappers. So I guess those people that's going to be selling box growing, later on in the future, I guess they're going to have a stream of revenue because all the young men are watching Adam22.
That's right.
Unbelievable, bro.
Yeah, it's weird, bro, but it ain't for us. Like you said, they don't make it for us.
Jesus Christ. Hey, man, shout out to us, man. I ain't got nobody to shout out for that, man. Hell no.
Speaking of content creators, we got iShowSpeed, who got into a dust up while on the Ivory Coast in Africa. So apparently iShowSpeed has been involved in a couple of dust ups while in Africa. This is just the latest example where while learning some sort of a ritualistic dance with locals in the area, he was attacked by some person wearing a diaper and seemingly covered in a white powdery substance. We'll just call it baby powder for the sake of this video. So once again, another odd story involving a streamer / content creator. And this isn't the first one involving this guy. So this says iShowSpeed attacked while dancing in Ivory Coast. Security rushes in to stop chaotic scene. iShowSpeed had a tense moment during his recent trip to the Ivory Coast after a man suddenly attacked him while he was attempting to learn a local dance on camera. On Sunday, which was January 25th, Speed was dancing alongside a performer when an unusual figure on a bicycle entered the scene. The man, who appeared to be covered in baby powder and dressed in what looked like a shower cap and diaper, rode directly between Speed and the dancer before hopping off his bike. Visibly confused, Speed could be heard reacting in shock as the man approached him. Within seconds, the agitator shoved the streamer and began yelling aggressively before rushing at him. The two briefly struggled and fell to the ground as the confrontation escalated. Speed's security team and nearby bystanders quickly intervened, pulling the man away and escorting him from the area before the situation could worsen. Speed appeared shaken but unharmed as the live stream continued. The Ivory Coast incident comes just days after another intense moment during Speed's travels in Nigeria, where a live stream interaction with a muscular man who dubbed himself I Show Strength grew increasingly heated. While streaming in Lagos, Speed encountered the shirtless man in red sweatpants who proudly declared that his strength was his superpower. The man demonstrated his power before bending metal bars before joining Speed and his crew in their vehicle. Throughout the ride, the man's aggressive energy stood out, prompting Speed to ask how he could calm him down repeatedly. Speed floated several ideas, including offering money, helping him meet a woman, or taking him out around Nigeria to lift his mood. After consulting with his team in live stream chat, Speed attempted to settle the situation by offering $1,000. However, the man grew frustrated and began demanding higher amounts. Sweating heavily and pounding on the ceiling of the car, the man continued shouting that he was still angry and wouldn't be satisfied with smaller sums. Even when Speed appeared to grab a handful of cash from his crew, the man dismissed it, estimating it was only a small amount in Nigerian currency. As the vehicle reached their next stop, it appeared no money was exchanged, and the encounter ended without resolution. So here is this situation with this diaper wearing, powder covered dude showing up on a bike to interrupt iShowSpeed learning a local dance.
What the fuck? Yeah, who the hell, man? Who the hell is that? Yeah, man. Who the hell is that? Who the hell is my damn thing? Who the hell is that? Yeah.
You know, the weirdest thing about this whole thing to me, the weirdest thing about that isn't the video itself. The weirdest thing about this is the fact that this article is written as if this is a legitimate incident.
Yes, bro.
But go ahead. Floor is yours.
But see, and this is my point with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Everywhere the Speed goes, he gets into these dust ups, as you mentioned. Everywhere he goes, he gets into these incidents with locals while he's streaming. They're either doing something racist towards him, or in this case, a heavily powdered man comes interrupting, and then there's a Jerry Springer dust up. This is the whole thing with Speed, man. He's another streamer guy, but he's extremely popular. But everything that he does is he goes place to place and creates controversy. And that's pretty much it everywhere he goes. So, you know, it was a matter of when he was having these things before, I'd be like, hey man, you know, that's unfortunate, or hey man, maybe he's a little too big for himself, or you know, maybe he can't go out in public like he always does. But now these things are starting to seem staged, and this is all a part of whatever his thing is. To me, in this clip here, to me, it's, in my opinion, made to make our people look stereotypical. Because why was that man covered up in powders? Why did he attack him that way? As the article mentioned, why is there this unnecessarily strong Nigerian naming himself I Show Strength and doing all this, you know, ape-like behaviors, just beating on things to display levels of strength? Doesn't take any money. Like, what is all this about? I think when he was like in Morocco or something like that, they were throwing bananas at him. I think when he went some other place last year, he was always getting all this racist stuff. You got to think of who this guy's fan base is. I know there's a lot of black kids that favor Speed, but I'm pretty sure Speed is as big as he is because there's a lot of people that watch him across demographics. And there's a lot of buffoonery things that Speed does. So yes, was he at an African village trying to learn a traditional dance? Yes, he was. So on one hand, it looks like Speed is just trying to go back and do some stuff in Africa. And then on the other hand, there's this jigaboo type nature of, look at this ashy ass African coming to attack Speed. And then, as the article mentioned, look at this gorilla strength Negro who's irreconcilable. He won't even take money and just embarrassing himself. So this is all part of Speed's content at this point. And as you mentioned, the article is writing it as if it's part of his content,
which is crazy. Yeah,
it's all a part of his whole thing. So yeah, the more I saw these things, the more I was like, damn, he got into another situation. Damn, he got into another situation. And again, once I get into pattern recognition, at some point I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here? It's intentional. It's all part of his act. It's all part of his show. And it's all for people who are into that weird level of bigotry kind of content where they think black people are funny, like they laugh at you kind of thing, which is why he gets into these racist or racial type of things where he goes somewhere, they throw bananas at him, or he goes somewhere and they do this and they go, it's part of his, I'm pretty sure the chat goes crazy is what I'm getting at. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure as soon as these things is happening, all these LOLs, laughing faces that, you know, ashy ass African coming to attack them. So yeah, man, if anybody watched Speed's content when he was first doing his streaming stuff, you know, I'm pretty sure you didn't. But I had a job where I had to watch content and he was in a lot of memes. This kid will do and say anything for attention. And so him doing this level of buffoonery doesn't surprise me. So yet again, another streamer out here doing and saying whatever, in my opinion, to go viral. But what are your thoughts, man, on this bizarre situation where Speed is out in Africa trying to learn a traditional dance and ashy ass African comes and jumps him? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, very well said. I agree with all of that. I don't think any of this is real. I think all of it is orchestrated. Mm-hmm. I think all of these incidents are orchestrated. There's no way in the world this is legitimate, because if it were real, his security would have been all over that guy from the jump.
Exactly.
That Ashy Larry over there would never even have gotten like Ashy Larry would never have gotten the chance to even get his hands on this kid, right? Because his security would have been all over him. There's no way that this is real. And the fact that the article is written as though it is, to me, is the most disturbing part of this whole thing. Because I wonder whether this type of viral content has jumped the shark at this point, so much so that now credible journalistic websites are in on the bit. That's what it makes me wonder. Because why would you not? Why, if this were me, I'd be writing it from the standpoint of, it kind of looks like it was a bit, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
At the very least, I'm gonna do that kind of thing if I'm like the author of that piece. But this thing is written as if this kid has just been, you know, on the wrong end of a bunch of random dust ups from people targeting him.
Exactly.
When these are clearly bits.
Yes.
All of them are bits.
Yes.
And I hear your point about the
racial undertones.
Yeah. I hear your point about the jigaboo aspect of this.
Yeah.
Because it kind of reminds me of speaking of Chappelle, because Ashy Larry was a character on Chappelle's show. It reminds me of Clayton Bigsby. Clayton Bigsby, the white supremacist who's actually a black guy, but he doesn't know it because he's blind. And there's one scene in the movie where it's a bunch of white kids in the car listening to rap music. Clayton Bigsby assumes the kids are black because he can't speak, and he calls them the N-word. And then who's driving him drives off, and then the kids look at each other and they go, "Did he just call us the N-word? Awesome!" And then they celebrate because they're happy that this guy called them the N-word. Yeah, I mean, what suburban white kid who likes iShowSpeed doesn't look at stuff like this and and find the jigabooing nature of the content endearing and funny.
Yes.
This was what drove Chappelle to stop making the show, because he realized people weren't understanding what it was he was trying to do.
Correct.
Which was to make fun of the way people make fun of black people, not to make fun of black people himself.
Yes.
And I look at stuff like this and I wonder whether people feel as though iShowSpeed is an agent of making fun of his own culture. It's just a thought that I have, because he's too young of a kid to be doing a Chappelle thing where there's a deeper meaning behind what he's doing. I just think he's out for virility and to get paid and to be famous and to get clout. He ain't thinking anything beyond that. But in terms of the societal ramifications of any of his various pieces of content, you wonder whether anyone who is viewing this, who isn't from the community, is looking at this as, look at how funny that is. Look at how funny they are. Because you know they're not looking at it from the standpoint of, look at how much he's making fun of how funny they might make fun of themselves. No one's thinking of it like that.
No.
So I hear your point. Yeah, I hear your point on that. I didn't think of it that way, but I do think it's on the board because just the buffoonery nature of this content nowadays, man. I'm trying to tell you, and this harkens back to our previous topic. This is the kind of stuff that people nowadays deem as appointment viewing. No one's going to movie theaters anymore. No one's going on dates anymore. No one's having sex anymore. They're just looking at iShowSpeed videos. This is what you get, man. Sign of the times type stuff, as you like to say. This is where we're at for sure. I think it's weird and goofy, but I think statistically speaking, the percentage of people who find this to be weird and goofy, unfortunately, is in the minority.
Yep. Well said, bro. And that was pretty much the angle I was getting at. And it's kind of like Doja Cat fans. Where it's just like it's all part of the joke. But Speed's not going to come out and actually say these things. He just is involved in these things where he's constantly getting racist stuff happen to him. So like you go somewhere and they throw bananas at you, that's for the people in the chat to laugh.
Yeah.
That's it. That's as far as it goes. And that's his whole thing. He does other stuff, but for the most part, whenever he gets into these controversial dust-ups, it's always racially related. And in this context, it wasn't so much that it was racist. It was the stereotypical way that these guys interjected. And as you mentioned, this is a $1 million something kid. Okay. He's got security all the way around him. There's no way they're letting somebody come in there and letting Speed handle it himself.
Right.
Like they're tackling that guy immediately.
Yeah.
But for these people to always somehow make their way to him speaks to how it's a bit. So at that point, why is there an ashy ass man tackling you, Speed? If that's part of the bit, what's funny about this?
Yeah.
Then if there's some strong buff ass Negro, okay, coming around talking about I show strength, okay,
yeah,
and he gets too close to you and nobody stops him. Why is this funny, Speed? Who finds this funny? And at that point, you can, reverse engineer and go, this must be for those group of people that thinks that Doja Cat comedy is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the people he plays up. That's the angle. And he can always play victim, as he always has been. But at this point, as I said, it's pattern recognition. At some point, you go, you know what? And especially in this clip, at some point, you go, you know what? This is all part of his act.
Yeah.
And every city he goes, he always encounters these weird things and racially motivated here, racially motivated there. At that point, it's all part of the bit. So I think it's lame. I think it's corny. But hey, man, we're just two old guys sitting on the porch.
Clearly.
You know what I'm saying? So who cares what we think?
That's right. Clearly, we're two old guys on the porch. Yeah, this gives me Uncle Ruckus, Clayton Bigsby, Ashy Larry vibes for sure. But yeah, that is what funny is nowadays. That's comedy. That's funny. We talked about comedy last week. Things just have a different meaning now. And it's a radically different understanding than what we became accustomed to. And I think for people like us, we say that it's a departure that is so far from the essence of what it's meant to be that it should be put in its own box and categorized accordingly. But I think most people who just take this stuff at face value want to lump it into the same box as everything else. Mm-hmm. So this isn't a different form of entertainment or comedy. This is entertainment and comedy. So, and you know, the masses deem it so. So, you know, it is what it is, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure that video has millions of views.
Yes, it does.
So this is weird, bro. We are living in some truly strange times, bro. You know,
unbelievable.
Shouts out to Speed, I guess, man. But you know, when he matures and gets older, I have a feeling that, well, my hope. Let me take that back. My hope is that 30-year-old Speed looks back on this stuff and is like, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. Or maybe I should have thought differently about some of that stuff, because I'm a bit embarrassed by it now. Mm-hmm. So and now we get into, man, another comical story. Yes. This one involving Jim Jones, who is claiming to be responsible for Kid Cudi's rise to fame. So Kid Cudi, way back in the day, burst onto the scene with the song Day and Night that eventually led to him being signed to Good Music with Kanye. Jim Jones hopped onto a remix of that song, which was popular at the time, his own version of Day and Night. But now Jim Jones is attributing him hopping onto that version of the song to Kid Cudi's whole success. And Kid Cudi is not here for it. He is clapping back against the idea that Jim Jones has anything to do with his success. So this says Kid Cudi slams Jim Jones for saying he's responsible for his success. Stop lying. In videos shared on his Instagram stories, Kid Cudi responded to Jim Jones after he claimed that he's responsible for his success because he remixed his breakthrough track Day and Night. I see something online that I have to address. Jim Jones, first of all, we love Jim Jones. I grew up on Jimmy. He's the homie. I met him when I was coming up. He was cool, right? Jimmy, I'm going to address you directly, my N-word. You talking about how you were responsible for my success is a lie. You need to stop lying to people. You get on your little podcast and you start gossiping and talking shit, and everybody on your podcast don't know the truth, so they are agreeing with you. But if you look under the comments, under the post, you'll see people are letting you know what time it is. He said that this isn't the first time that Jim Jones has made these claims, and it breaks his heart to see him doing it again. Day and Night was already a hit record before you touched it, my N-word. I put it on my MySpace. It blew up, okay? I had an entire mixtape. I was on my way. Motown was courting me. Kanye wanted to sign me, all because of Day and Night, because I put it on my MySpace and it blew up. It blew up. I can promise you that Sylvia Rhone did not listen to your remix and say she wanted to sign me. That is not why I have a record deal, bro. Nothing you're talking about is the truth. How do you think I had a music video? I was shooting the music video. I was already on. You saw a hit record and jumped on it, my N-word. He told Jones that he's got to stop telling these tales, and gave a shout out to everyone pushing back on his claims. It's crazy how people just be trying to take credit for my success. And I like Jimmy, man. It kind of breaks my heart to hear him on here trying to take credit for something that he's not a part of. You jumped on my shit. I didn't ask you to do that. I was an international artist from jump. I had the world, my N-word. His response comes not long after Jim Jones, in an appearance on the Not Rap Cap podcast, suggested no one knew who Kid Cudi was before he dropped his remix of Day and Night. So we'll skip down here and listen to Mr. Jim Jones give his rendition of events.
I didn't know you remixed some of them songs. We don't on the radio. I'm like, this nigga remix this right here. Night, what it was, Day and Night? Day and Night.
That was one of the biggest.
Nigga, you remixed that. I didn't know that shit.
That's how y'all know Kid Cudi. You would have never known Kid Cudi if I didn't remix the record in New York City. I made that the biggest record in New York City. It wasn't Kid Cudi. Nobody knew who Kid Cudi was. Kid Cudi became about because he had video directors that I wanted them to do a video, and I asked them show me a video they did before, and they showed me this kid on top of a roof with a record called Day and Night. Right. He worked in the store under the label. There's nobody. I was like, oh, yo, did this? I said, I like the record. Get the beat of the record. I want to do a remix. If you give me the beat of the record, I'll let y'all shoot my video. These kids was trying to shoot a video for free for me. Oh, like I got the beat. I told them they went crazy. You want to do it? I got the beat. I shot the video to the beat, and I never even put the shit out. They put it up on YouTube. They ripped it off of YouTube, and it became the biggest record in New York City. And that's how Kid Cudi became an artist. They ended up giving him a big deal off of Jim Jones' back. If I'm lying, I'm fine.
Nah, nigga, we ain't know nothing.
So, yeah, that is Jim Jones's recollection of how that happened there. There are music videos for Day and Night, one from French director Soul Me, and another video from the Crookers remix. The third video was shot by director duo BB Gunn and was made before the two other videos, but was released in 2009. The song picked up traction in 2007 after Cudi uploaded it to his MySpace page, which caught the attention of the artist formerly known as Kanye West, who signed him to Good Music that same year. Day and Night was officially released as a commercial single in February 2008 via Good Music, Fool's Gold, Universal Motown, and Data. Jim Jones's remix didn't arrive until October that same year. Jones made similar claims about the remix in 2022. So, yeah, there you have it. Jim Jones claiming basically claiming he made Kid Cudi. And Kid Cudi saying, bro, you had nothing to do with it. I was already on my way. Jim Jones is approaching friend of the channel status.
Absolutely.
He's getting there. So what do you think about Jim Jones and all of this nonsense that he's talking here?
You know, it's at this point, it's standard Jim Jones. He's in a constant state of delusions of grandeur. I mean, just the way that he answered that question, he had to reposition us. Like, I'm the one that put Kid Cudi on. Like, he really believes these things that he says. We just had a whole soliloquy about Nas. This man said he better than Nas. And he really thinks this.
He meant it. Yeah.
Yeah, he really thinks these things. So his delusions of grandeur, there's a lot of people out there that wish they had the same levels of self-confidence that Jim Jones has in himself. If nobody believes in Jim Jones will. So in a world that's predicated and in an industry that's predicated on being fake as hell, okay, no wonder he has a name in it. Now, that doesn't mean he's good. It's an industry predicated on people who are absolutely delusional and they lie their ass off. And so this is why we know people like Jim Jones. It's because he has this nature about himself. He's a habitual liar, okay, and has some tendencies about himself that's some people would say that's a little, personality disorder kind of thing, which allows him to thrive in such a field. I mean, this guy's way out of his prime when it comes to rapping. I mean, I don't know anything that this guy has done of relevance over the last decade or so musically, but he still finds his way on algorithms because of this level of delusion that he has. And at this point, I don't know if he's trolling us or if he really is just giving his testimony of life. There's clips out there with Fat Joe, man. Fat Joe out here just saying all kinds of just reckless stuff when it comes to the industry and stuff. Now, it's not to the level of Jim Jones, but it's still these cap ass stories where it's just like, damn, bro, you really believe these things. Like, you really thought you was out here like that. Like, but you're not. But I guess it's hard to tell somebody that had a big hit, that did a tour, that had an album, that had videos on BET and MTV, where everybody does know your name, whether they like you or not. I guess it's kind of hard to tell some of those people that you ain't who you think you are.
Yeah.
But Jim Jones, he's going to continue these things. Me personally, I never heard the Jim Jones version. So after this dust up went up online, okay, I was like, okay, well, let me go find the Jim Jones version to see if I heard it. I probably forgot. But I went to go look at this thing. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? I don't know what he was saying in the song. I could clearly hear him. He's not mumble rapping, but what are you talking about? So it was just really bad. That didn't make me want to go listen to the original version. Okay. So I know I didn't hear his version first. So I guess what Jim Jones is trying to tell me is that the reason why I heard the Kid Cudi version was because Jim Jones blew it up first in New York, which made everybody else want the original, which is why I heard it. But as the article mentioned, there was a whole timeline going on before Jim Jones even got his hands on it.
Exactly.
So at that point, he was trying to do a Drake, trying to hop on a Going Up on a Tuesday song or a Trap Queen song like Drake did, you know. But the song was already hot before you got on it. But the thing is that you didn't do what Drake does, and you didn't own the song if you did, because everybody would have been listening to the Jim Jones version had you really did what you said you did. So all in all, this is typical Jim Jones delusion. You know, at this point, it's become comical. I'm getting a real kick out of this. But what are your thoughts, man, on Jim Jones saying that he's the one that made Kid Cudi, and he's the reason why you even know the song Day and Night is? What are your thoughts, bro?
It's cap. It's cap. It's complete cap. Day and Night came out in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
I was in college, living in a college town.
Yes.
I attended many college parties, college clubs, college bars, local parties, local clubs. I was all over the place in Tallahassee, Florida. Day and Night was getting played a lot.
Yes, it was.
And it was getting played a lot well before Jim Jones made his remix.
Yes.
And I remember Jim Jones's remix. I do, because I remember hearing it. But by that time, Kid Cudi was already well established, and the original song was already well established. So the sequence of events that Jim Jones is alluding to doesn't match up with my individual recollection of what was going on back then.
Mm-hmm.
So he is completely off his rocker with this. I don't know where this is coming from, but I don't know what he is trying to achieve. I don't know. I'm not sure what he is trying to achieve by making outlandish comments like this. The only thing that I can gather is that, you know, at this point, musically, Kid Cudi isn't the staple that he was back then. Not that Kid Cudi was ever a staple, but if you're going to suggest that he is one, he hasn't been one since he first kind of came on and popped up back in the late 2000s. And so perhaps since that's a, you know, forgotten time, maybe he's trying to engage in revisionist history because not too many people remember what was going on in 2007. But that's the only thing that I can think of, because if you were around in 2007, particularly in specific environments, Kid Cudi was not made by Jim Jones. Furthermore, Kid Cudi was actually more popular than Jim Jones.
Yes.
So Jim Jones had a ripple effect with the Ballin' song. That's about it. But if you remove Ballin' from the equation, Kid Cudi back then had multiple songs that piqued people's interest well beyond whatever Jim Jones had going on. So if one wanted to make the suggestion that Kid Cudi made Jim Jones, you theoretically could do that, because if a person heard that remix, it kind of made them want to go back and, I mean, if a person heard Kid Cudi's song and then heard Jim Jones's remix, that person might say, oh, Jim Jones got on a Kid Cudi remix. Oh, you know, it's cool that it's cool that Kid Cudi allowed Jim Jones to collaborate on his song, because Day and Night was out before Jim Jones made a remix of it. So I don't know, man. As somebody who was around, I was around the demographic that listened to Kid Cudi music the most. It's the same demographic that was listening to A$AP Rocky, and it's the same demographic that was listening to Drake in his early days. Same demographic that was listening to all of those kinds of guys like that, those indie pop kind of guys. People like Chance the Rapper, who came on a bit later, but that kind of crowd. You know, ASAP Rocky, Chance the Rapper, Drake, that kind of thing. I was there, and trust me, they were listening to Kid Cudi just as much at the time as they were listening to a lot of those other guys, independent of whatever impact Jim Jones may have had.
Exactly.
So this is more crazy Jim Jones delusional talk that, you know, like I said, he's trying to engage in revisionist history. Maybe this is all for him trying to parlay himself into a career as a media personality / podcaster. Maybe that's the goal. Be a gas bag and say hot takey stuff that are at the most debatable and disagreeable, but not necessarily objective fact and truth, because that's what a lot of podcasters and gas bags in the media do. They just say hot takey stuff. So maybe this is the Jim Jones version of hot takey media gas baggery, but it's certainly not the record of events as factually constituted. There's no way. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much his angle, as you mentioned. It's probably a touch of both, where he's doing a brand of revisionist history because just trying to muck up the waters. Because do you actually remember the sequence of events? And he can muck that up. And also a sense of this is his new lane of trying to be a podcaster and go viral. And that's why he says these really inflammatory things, I feel. I mean, these things really rub people the wrong way. I saw a lot of think pieces on TikTok about how incorrect Jim Jones was about it. And I think he wants this. I think he wants to be on Conscious Approach. I think he wants to go viral.
Yeah.
However it goes. And so yeah, I think he's also in that same boat of any publicity is good publicity at this point, because at this point people are going to be checking for what Jim Jones got going on, and Jim Jones is going to tell you what he got going on, And so I got to tell you, man, it's a different type of brand of comedy, but I think I like it. Now, I'm not going to sit around and watch a Jim Jones podcast. I'll just wait around for the hot takes that got everybody pissed off so I can get a good laugh out of it. Because he's one of those people where I'm not going to sit down and watch his whole comedy routine, okay? But he does have a good punchline here and there that's good enough to be uploaded to the internet, and then I'll watch those punchlines. But because I can't listen to a whole hour of him capping. Like, that'd be disgusting. Like, I don't know how I will handle that. But these little pockets, these little clips where he goes viral and he says he's better than Nas, or he say he discovered Kid Cudi. I can't wait to hear the next thing that he says. So I think that's what he's into this for, is to go viral, and I think that's why Fat Joe says the stuff that he says, because it's all on his podcast.
Yeah,
and it's to say these really bombastic ass things that make everybody go, wait, what? What did you say, bro? And so naturally people want to repost it. So now we're dealing with guys that played the first algorithm, and that was being label guys and having videos and making catchy songs. So now they feel like they can pimp the whole podcast game. Yeah. And they figured that the way to go about doing it, much like how Cameron and Mace started, because they was every week going at somebody, either clapping back or doing something, because they understand the name of the game is to go viral. So I think that's what Jim Jones is doing too. So hey man, I'm here with it. I'm here to dispute it though. So so whenever you come up with your BS, bro, I'm here to set the universe back in balance.
Facts, bro. Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. Content is king, man, for better or for worse. For better or for worse, content is king, man. And we can dispute his record of events all day long, but you have to imagine that somewhere there are some Harlem World Dipset Jim Jones fans.
For sure, bro.
And they're eating all of that stuff up, because everybody has fans. As crazy as that may sound, man, everybody has fans. So there are some Harlem World Dipset Jim Jones acolytes out there who are liking and commenting on this and having it, gain some sort of attraction on the algorithm, man. And that is not my record. That is not my recollection, but that's somebody's recollection. And who knows? Truth doesn't even exist. We truly live in a post-truth society.
Yeah,
I've made that comment on more serious topics on the channel before, but we live in a post-truth society, which is a scary thing to me, but it's true nonetheless, where there really is no such thing as the truth anymore, because everybody has their own version of the truth, and because everybody has their own bully pulpit on the internet, they can espouse their version of the truth, and somebody somewhere is going to believe their version of the truth. Yeah. Hence, there really is no such thing as the truth anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, we really live in post-truth. Like, the world is like that, where we live in a post-truth society. Mm-hmm. So you can curate your own messages and your own communities and your own comment sections and your own, there's a filtration system that you can specifically curate so that everything looks and sounds the way you want and need it to. Mm-hmm. And everyone has the power to do that nowadays, Jim Jones is included. So we're just in a post-truth society where people can just say whatever they want and just be unchecked, because no one really knows what truth means anymore, sadly. I don't think that that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, we should be able to rely on something being identifiable as the truth, but we can't do it anymore. Content and virility have taken over. And so when these things have taken over, people can just espouse their own version of what happened, and somebody somewhere is going to believe it and regurgitate that, and it spreads like wildfire, and hence this is what you got. So for all we know, he is telling the truth,
which is crazy. In some reality, he is. Yeah, man. There's somebody out there that thinks Jim Jones is one of the last real people in the game, and they really mean that, which is sad. So I don't know who you are, bro, but I don't really want to know who you are. So,
crazy. Hey, that's how it goes, man. I hope everybody is having fun out there, living in this world where no such thing is, where the truth just no longer exists. Shouts out to Jim Jones, man. I think by the time we touch on Jim Jones on our next topic, he will have officially graduated to friend of the channel status. Yeah. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for another fantastic edition of Conscious Approach on YouTube. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to tonight's stream. Much love, of course, to original OG friend of the channel, Marcus Dudley. As always, you are my brother from another mother, my friend. Yeah. I need to hit you up, because the next time that I visit Tallahassee, I need to make sure you are in market, because we got to get up, sir. Mm-hmm. But my name is JV Wins. That, of course, is Dogon SS. Check us out on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button, and leaving those comments when you agree with us or when you disagree with us. We will take it all the same, because we don't look to be agreed upon. We just look to stimulate interesting conversation. And as I always like to say, have a mind of your own. Don't be a group thinker. Think for yourself. And until next time, check out the content library for other engaging content on the channel. We'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you very much for watching.
Hey, and the name is Dogon SS. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, on YouTube, DraftKings, MySpace, Twitter, X, TikTok. Hey, man, the social media platform, Dogon_SS is also out there. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow, and all that good jazz. And we would like to thank you all for liking, sharing, consciously leaving comments on all these videos, man. Hey, we do this every Tuesday night. So come on and join us, man. Leave some comments in the live stream, man. We always out here doing this, man. We would love to hear y'all's feedback as well. And as I say every week, guys, don't be too high. Don't be too low. Keep it calm. Keep it chill. Keep it player. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until the next episode, ladies and gentlemen, I still got more rings than Robert Ory. And we'll catch y'all in the next episode. Chill.
That's right. TikTok and Instagram at Conapproach, CONAPPROACH. Thank y'all very much. We'll see you later. Peace.
Peace. Go Heat, I guess. I don't know what I don't know what we got going on, bro. Hey, shit happening no more, man.
Yeah.
Oh